fastest teams to practice today. Kyle
Casey Kane, we congratulate him, his third career pole.
It's all three Hendrick Motorsports in the front.
There's a few movers and shakers out there.
Carl Edwards free falling for a couple
to victory lane is Joey Logano.
Get the inside line on who's fast and who's last before setting your NASCAR fantasy race team lineup this weekend. This is the Inside Line on MRN.com, presented by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your fantasy experts, Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
What a finish in wine country in Sonoma a week ago. Still numb to the fact that Tony Stewart is most likely racing for the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Just unbelievable, Robbie. Your thoughts?
It's awesome. It's incredible. I'm going to be honest. I got to be a race fan on Sunday for a little while. Watching him wheel that car around that racetrack, I haven't seen him do that in years. And then when Denny Hamlin got by him going into turn 7, I was like, I went from here to here. And then we got down to turn 11, and I'm like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then here's Tony winning the race, and it was awesome. So
you went here from here. You were kind of like DW.
I was like here, back up to here.
That was his call.
Yeah. So
oh, no.
I was excited for Tony. I was bummed for Denny because I know he wanted to win on a road course. But the emotion that Tony had getting out of that race car, that's why I love racing. That's why to see that raw emotion of, yes, I just want to race, that's what I love.
You know what? One of the cool facts is, and Eric Morris, I'm used to work with him at Sprint Vision.
I've heard of him.
He works here at the Motor Racing Network in the office. He has a fantasy league with about 100 people in it.
Yeah.
And there was one person who picked Tony Stewart to win the race in his fantasy league. Can you guess who it was?
I know who it was.
Who was it?
Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin picked Tony Stewart to win in Eric Morse's fantasy league. That was the only person to do it.
That's awesome.
I think there's some conspiracy going on here.
There could be. We had Kyle Petty in here on Monday on Motorsports Monday, and he was talking about his first win at Richmond. And you go back and watch it on YouTube, but there's a cool story about that too. Sort of the same situation.
Yeah. Coming up on the show this week, Regan Smith joins us. He's here to preview tomorrow night's race at the Daytona International Speedway. Regan finished 8th in the Daytona 500, so obviously a guy you could think about starting on your fantasy team this weekend. He'll most likely give his case as to why you should start him, and then he gives us a great perspective on the racetrack, who to start. Also, we're here to help you out with your fantasy teams. Well, try to help us out. We're going to also bring back the lovely Restrictor Plate hat, where we will make our picks out of a hat at the end of the week and see if the hat picks do better than us, which most likely they will. I don't think they beat us last time, though.
No, we came close. And at the end of the show, a new special segment called Under a Rock or Tyler. I'll just let that be a preview.
Yeah. Plus our teams and our winners. This is the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
Tyler and Robbie will be right back to talk more fantasy racing here on the Inside Line.
O'Reilly. Don't miss the 4-day sale going on now through the 4th of July at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stop in today and purchase O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Dot 3 brake fluid or carb and choke cleaner. Now buy one, get one free instantly. Now through the 4th of July only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Race fans, you know there's nothing like the power, excitement, and sounds of NASCAR. Ever wonder what it would be like to strap yourself in the seat of an authentic NASCAR race car? You can do it at the Richard Petty Driving Experience. Ride along or drive yourself at one of 15 tracks nationwide. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit online at drivepetty.com. Richard Petty Driving Experience. It's authentic NASCAR entertainment. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit drivepetty.com to reserve your experience.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Slingin' Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand. Let's talk more fantasy racing on The Inside Line. Here's Robbie and Tyler.
A rock in a hard... Is that a rock in a hard place or a rock and Tyler?
It's under a rock or Tyler.
Can you explain a little bit what it's going to be?
We'll get to it in segment 4.
It probably has something to do with pop culture,
Yeah.
I assume, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, we're talking fantasy racing this week. Pop culture will have to wait until the next segment, or a couple of segments from now. Regan Smith, I guess, is pop culture. He'll be us in the segment. But Robbie, who is on your fantasy team in this roulette game at Daytona International Speedway?
All right, Daytona Coke Zero 400. Thinking I'm probably going to go with Kevin Harvick this weekend on my team.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's started at Daytona 30 times. He's won here twice. Of course, the 2007 Daytona 500. Won the Coke Zero 400 back in 2010. In the Coke Zero 400, see, Daytona, we have the Daytona 500 in February, and we have the Coke Zero 400 in July. I think that the two races are completely different from each other. So I normally go on Daytona 500 stats in February and Coke Zero 400 stats in July. In the Coke Zero 400, in the last 10 races, Kevin Harvick has a win, and his average finish is 15.8. On plate tracks, 61 total starts between here and Talladega, 3 wins, 15 top 5 finishes. He was 4th in the Daytona 500, 15th at Talladega. So I like Kevin Harvick this weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how great he's been in the Daytona 500. I mean, you look back, he finished 4th this year, then the year before 2nd, then 13th, which is a little down, not horrible. And then you go further back, he finished 7th. So Harvick has been pretty solid, but he's also been pretty good in July. I mean, 4th last year, and then a couple years ago he had a wreck a year ago, but then a couple years ago he finished 3rd. So I also like the Kevin Harvick pick. I think he has a great shot to win this race this weekend. He has the patience, and Kevin Harvick should probably be someone you think about on your team. So Harvick is on my team. I also like Joey Logano, Daytona 500 champion a year ago. He has not been bad in July either. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he finished 22nd last year, but the years before that, 17th, and then 4th and a 3rd. So he can run at Daytona, and his last 3 starts at Daytona have been a win, and then, of course, 6th in the Daytona 500, and then 22nd last July. But he's still, averaging a pretty good finish at Daytona, and I believe he's on your team as well.
Yeah, I've got him on my team this week for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I want to go back to Sonoma last week, and I want to apologize to you for saying
you
that
really
I didn't think
should,
Joey
because
Logano
you were wrong
wasn't.
about Chase Elliott, and I was right about Joey Logano, so I was right about 2 things last week.
I'm just going to be the bigger man here and apologize for last week. Joey Logano, and we talked about this going to last week, and agree or disagree with me that Sonoma, Watkins Glen, you can be good at one and bad at the other one, and vice versa. Well, Daytona and Talladega, I think, are the same. You can be good at Daytona or be bad at Talladega, and vice versa. And I think Joey is kind of good at both. I mean, obviously, he won 2 plate races last year. He won the Daytona 500 last year, won by that much at Talladega last fall. So I think when we talk about the upper echelon of plate drivers, Joey Logano is quickly becoming one of the top drivers as far as plate tracks goes currently in the Sprint Cup Series.
Well, I probably have to disagree with you on Sonoma and Watkins Glen. I think they're very similar. I think if you have a road course prowess, you're going to be good at either one. I mean, you look at Kurt Busch, he finished well. Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. is good at Watkins Glen. He was good last week. Kyle Busch, he's going to be good at Watkins Glen too. However, I think you're right about Daytona and Talladega, and here's the numbers why I will tell you this. Brad Keselowski right now is probably the best driver at Talladega.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of his past starts. I think he has 2 wins in the last 3 starts he's had at Talladega. He absolutely dominated the race earlier this year. Looking at his Daytona numbers, he is struggling in the past 4 races. 18th in the Daytona 500 a year ago, 41st in the July race last year, and then a 29th, and then, of course, a 20th place finish in the Daytona 500. So that's 4 finishes out of the top 18 for Brad Keselowski at Daytona. So I do agree with you on that stat.
And here's the biggest number of them all. He has 4 wins at Talladega. He has 3 total top 10s at Daytona.
That's
So Brad Keselowski's not a good pick this weekend.
And then watch, he goes out and wins the race.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so we have Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick on my team. Who's your second guy on your team? Joey Logano as well?
Yeah,
right?
Joey Logano as well. I have him on my team. Chase Elliott, again, on my team this week, up 575 from when I picked him up. He's at 2550 total right now. Second start at Daytona in the Sprint Cup Series. Of course, he started on the pole, finished 37th in the Daytona 500 after a crash. He won the pole for both restrictor plate races this year, so he has an opportunity to be up front early and get you some possible laps led. And we talked about it last week, Sonoma 110-lap race. This race is only 160 laps, and at 2 points at 2 laps led for every 1 point in the NASCAR.com league. You don't have many opportunities to get points for laps led this week. So Chase Elliott, good qualifier. He could start up front, so he could definitely be someone to add onto your team.
See, the way they qualify, and I believe this stat is right, and I heard it yesterday, the 24 car has been on the pole for, I believe, the last 5 restrictor plate races.
That we qualified for.
That we have qualified for,
yeah.
Correct, because we missed a qualifying.
I think last summer in Daytona we rained out.
So, at Talladega, and then Jeff Gordon won the pole for Daytona 500.
Right.
He won the pole for a Talladega race, I believe, as well that year. And then Chase Elliott, of course, got the pole for the Daytona 500 this year. And
so
then
whatever Alan
Talladega.
Gustafson is doing,
but
that's awesome.
The thing is, I would stay away from the pole sitter, and, in fantasy, because what Chase Elliott did in the Daytona 500, he finished 37th. He wrecked. That is a lot of points you threw down the drain. You finished in the negatives. You finished negative 36 because you lost 36 passing points. So I don't like the pole sitter. Maybe if it's Kevin Harvick or Dale Earnhardt Jr., I like it. But Chase Elliott does not have a whole lot of experience in the Cup Series. Well, 2 races of experience.
Yeah.
He finished well at Talladega, but who knows if he starts up front, which he most likely will, that's going to be a shaky pick.
Well, for me, I can't drop him. I can't afford to drop him.
Yeah.
So if you've got him, don't drop him. But you're right. I agree with you. The pole sitter, if you go back in the history of the Coke 0400, Dale Jr. won from the pole last year. It was rained out. 2010, Kevin Harvick won from the pole. It was also rained out. Tony Stewart in 2009, I think they qualified that year. He won from the pole. He also won from the pole in 2005, and Jeff Gordon won from the pole in this race in 2004. So it's been done a lot recently.
Yeah. But,
with the young driver, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, Martin Truex Jr., 2 inches away from winning a Daytona 500 this year in February. He is on my team, and I see that he's not on your team.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of questioning that, finishing second. He was pretty good at Talladega as well. Even though he had a beat-up race car, he still finished in the top 10. I think he's becoming a pretty good plate racer, though he has never won at a restrictor plate track, which is kind of unreal to me. But I think he's got a great shot to win the race this week, and he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I thought about Truex for a few minutes. I just didn't go with him. I don't have a good reason why. I went with a guy who was involved in, I think, 3 crashes in Talladega back in May. That's Austin Dillon at $20. Kind of been up and down recently. 6 starts at Daytona. He's got 1 top 5 finish, 4 top 10 finishes. So this is one of his better racetracks, and his average overall finish is a 12.5. That 12.5 average is 3rd best right now for the last 10 races, behind Dale Earnhardt Jr. at a 10.1 and Denny Hamlin at 10.8. But he was 9th in Daytona, 3rd at Talladega. I think the 3 car might be good this weekend.
Are we making a mistake not putting Dale Earnhardt Jr. on our team this week? Most likely.
Probably. But after his last 2 performances, they're going to have a new car. Obviously, Amelia got destroyed in Talladega. It's done. So they're going to bring a new car this weekend. I don't know. I thought about Dale Jr. I thought you would say that was cliche for me to pick Dale Jr. at Daytona, but he's obviously really good here. So.
Well, going off of the credibility of the show, like we have with, A.J. Allmendinger, though he finished 14th at Sonoma, he was still a factor to win that race, in my opinion. He was a top 3 car.
Until the uncontrolled tire.
Yeah, and which wasn't his fault on pit road. And then you have Harvick at Phoenix and Jimmy at Dover. To keep our credibility, we might have to pick Dale Earnhardt Jr. at a restrictor plate track, but he's on neither one of our teams.
Yeah.
So make sure you look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's going to be pretty solid.
Yeah. All right, running down my team, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher.
I like Austin Dillon, with the 12.5 average finish. Landon Castle has joined my team this week, and I will say that Rich Colbreth has given me some advice on that. He's up $10.75. Is that too high? I do not know, but he is a good plate racer, even when he was with Hillman in the 40 car.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be good this weekend. I think he's going to be good at the plate tracks moving forward, and he hasn't been that bad at the intermediate tracks as well. Regan Smith, who will join us next, he is on my fantasy team. He finished 8th in the Daytona 500. Just because of that finish for Tommy Bolden Racing, I'm going to add our buddy Regan Smith to my team. So that's Regan Smith, Landon Castle, and then going to the top, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. And your team?
Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, and Chris Buescher.
Joining us next, Regan Smith. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
We'll be right back in just a moment to talk more fantasy racing with Tyler and Robbie here on the Inside Line.
Don't miss the 4-day sale going on now through the 4th of July at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stop in today and pick up Trico Force wiper blades, buy one, get one free. Keep your windshield clean and save money with Trico Force wiper blades now through the 4th of July only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Ever wish your kid came with an instruction manual? I'm behavioral therapist James Lehman, and I'll show you how to change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation, the program that helps stop defiance, backtalking, lying, acting out in school, even problems with ADD and ADHD. There's no screaming, no fighting, no frustration. Your child will listen to you again. I guarantee it.
Change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation. Call now. 1-800-406-2945. 1-800-406-2945.
What do you love most about July 4th weekend? Is it the food? The family? The fireworks? Well, this July 4th weekend, add one more word to the list. First. As in the first Coke Zero 400 at the world's first motorsports stadium. Everything you love about the holiday gets a huge upgrade at the all-new Daytona. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. Saturday night, July 2nd. Guarantee your seats at 1-800-PIT-SHOP or DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
We now return to the Inside Line with Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
Join our NASCAR.com Fantasy Live League, playing with 1,080 other people who beat Robbie every week. We're having a great time. You're on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show.
Seriously, can we get Rich back?
We're happy you have joined us. Rich quit this show.
I know.
Why do you want him back?
I don't know. I think Hercules guy.
You don't have more fun? I mean, we made it from radio, podcast to TV, or what, these cameras in front of us. So, anyways, let's talk to someone who does a lot more with his life than we do, because he's racing at Daytona this weekend. Going back to a racetrack where he finished in the top 10 the last time we were there. He finished 8th in the Daytona 500. Regan Smith of Tommy Bolden Racing joins us. Regan, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing today?
Doing great. I'm sure that you have a sense of feeling of excitement going back to Daytona. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if you would call it excitement. I think it's a weird. Daytona's a weird race for a driver, because some of us, and myself included, we really like going there. We like plate racing. We like speedway racing. But with that said, we also know that there's outside elements that we can't always control when we get there that can happen and cause us to maybe get in a crash, maybe not get the finish that we want, whatever it might be. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, man. You get pumped up about it, but you're also conscious of the other things that can happen when you get there.
Regan, you've won at Daytona before in the Xfinity Series. Went to Victory Lane there in February of 2014. So obviously you've got experience at Daytona. You've got experience winning at Daytona. Putting together a full race at a restrictor plate track, talk about some of the things that you're constantly thinking about inside the race car while you're going around a track at 200 miles an hour.
Well, you're trying. The biggest challenge at either one of the plate tracks is to try and see how the race is going to flow and understand what your competitors are doing at what times that they're doing it. There's a lot of situations where you just don't want to be, trying to go forward. You don't want to be mixing it up when there's 3 and 4 wide. You sit back there and you look at it and you say, okay, two things here. There's no path for me to get through the field when they're 3 or 4 wide, because the track's only 3 lanes wide, generally speaking. And then second off, you say, if they wreck, I don't want to be in it. So you've got to try and time everything you do right, no matter how good or bad your race car is. You got to position that car in the right places at the right time, at the right moment. to be able to give yourself the cleanest opportunity to get up through the field. So, I think you're just sitting there trying to see that, play that out, and figure out when you can make up and gain the most positions. Sometimes it's during pit cycles. Sometimes it's while you're running, and guys maybe have handling issues. And that's the good part. We did see last time at Daytona, the handling issues came into play. I know around lap 20 in the Daytona 500, cars look like they've had to start lifting just a little bit getting into the corners. And, we don't see that all the time. We don't, Daytona, since it's been repaved, I'd say maybe we've seen that once or twice where guys have had to do that. And maybe a little bit of a sign that the old Daytona's coming back. So you may actually have to start thinking, a little bit about your handling and your setup as well, which hasn't been the case in a while.
Yeah, it seems like we've had ill-handling race cars at both Talladega and Daytona the last two stops because, of course, Junior, loose off of 4 in Daytona and then loose off of 2 in Talladega and then Chase loose off of 4. So it seems like that is definitely coming back into play. I will say this. In the 500, the way you placed your car towards the end of the race was completely masterful because you stayed out of every wreck all day long, which is a thing that's hard to do, isn't it?
I was even in one, and I still managed to get it up front there. The wreck where Chase spun, I actually ended up going around myself and somehow didn't hit anything, didn't hit the walls, didn't get down in the grass, and you don't want to get in the grass because it's going to rip the splitter off the car and ruin your day. And my TBR guys did a really nice job of keeping it tuned up, and we had a really good handle in race car. That's what I liked about my car, and that's going back, I think that's the one thing that excites me the most is how well our car handled in the 500. Now, given that was in the heat of the day, this is scheduled to be a night race. I say scheduled because this time of year in Daytona, you never know what the weather's going to do this time of year down there. You get these pop-up storms, and they might stick around till 2 in the morning, or they might pop up and be gone in a matter of 20 minutes. So we'll have have an eye to the sky and another eye on the computer screen trying to figure out which setups we want to run. But if this thing were to turn into a day race, I think you could see a completely different look to it than what we will see if it's on a Saturday night like it's scheduled to be.
You mentioned your competitors around you knowing where they are at all times. At the end of the race, as far as fantasy concerned, because that's the reason why we call you, we need help with our fantasy team, who is going to be around you, hopefully at the front of the field at the end of the day for your fantasy team?
Well, I think on my fantasy team this week, I'm going to be going heavy with the JGR and the Hendrick Motorsports cars.
Okay.
I really like Matt Kenseth going back there. He's, he's obviously a good plate racer. I feel like he's one of, if not the most underrated plate racer in the field when you look at his stats, look at, his body of work, what he's done. Denny Hamlin, another guy that I like going back there. And how can you not pick the 88 car at Daytona? I mean, I know he's had 2 bad plate races this year so far, but come on. I mean, it's Dale Jr., and it's Daytona. It's like cookies and milk. It's just, they work together. So, so I like those 3 guys of those 2 companies. The 48 car, I get a little more nervous about picking Jimmy only because he's had some wrecks this year that just, on the plate tracks, whether they're his fault or not, it seems like maybe positions that you don't want to be in at certain times in the race. The 5 car, Casey Kane, he could be a little bit of a less expensive guy if you need somebody, for not quite as much money that. He's got good plate track experience. He's due for a win in the Cup Series in one of these cars very soon. So, I like those companies because of how their cars have looked and just where they've been at on the plate tracks this year so far.
Regan, what about some of the underfunded teams that maybe cost a little bit less? Those guys, usually we pick one of them because we think maybe they can sneak up there and get a top 10. Some of the underfunded teams, what do you think about those guys this weekend?
Yeah, so for my pick of an underfunded guy this weekend, I'm basically going to take and I'm going to wrap a blindfold around my eye. I'm going to pick up – I got a dart here in my office, actually, and there's a board on the wall, and the board's got all the names. I'm going to throw that dart and just let it land where it wants to land because who knows this weekend.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those races where you really could honestly not make a bad pick in terms of who's going to do, well at those racetracks. With that said, since I'm on the show and I have to give you a pick, I'm going to take I'm going to take a guy like David Regan. David's really good at the plate tracks. He seems to be smooth. He seems to be consistent, put himself in the right places at the right time. So I like him as a good pick. I obviously like the 7 car. I'd be totally regretful if I didn't make a mention of that. Now, I don't like picking myself, so that's why I say I like the 7 car. The driver, he's kind of, he's a little bit shaky, but we'll go with that car getting itself up front somehow. And maybe a guy, a little bit more money here, but maybe if you need kind of a middle-of-the-road money guy to pick, Paul Menard and that ECR, RCR bunch of his really seems like they do a good job on the plate tracks as well. I feel like he's always up front at Daytona in particular.
In your opinion, at the end of the day on Saturday night, hopefully it's not pushed back later, who will be standing in front of the fireworks in Victory Lane on July 4th weekend in Victory Lane?
Who? I still, for some reason, well, I'm wanting it to be me. Again, I said I don't pick myself, so I'm not going to do that. I won't be that guy on the show here. I can assure you this. If it is me standing in front of those fireworks and that trophy on Saturday night, the party's not going to stop until whatever day I have to leave to go to Kentucky or wherever the next race is. It'll go continuously all the way on through, and we'll have fun with it. But with that said, I really like Matt Kenseth going back. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder because of what happened, in the 500 earlier this year. I like the way that all the JGR cars work together as teammates, and along with the 78 car, we might as well call them the fifth JGR car at this point because that's essentially what they are. So, you got those 5 teams that really have just got it clicking in both plate races. I feel like they've kind of shown that they've got the ability to keep their cars up there. So let's go with Kenseth on Saturday night.
Yeah, the Gibbs cars have been unbelievable, especially when we went to the Daytona 500. Yep. All 4 of them were at the front of the field, and if you include Truex up at the front as well, you got 5. Regan, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck this weekend. I'll stop by and say hi to you.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Regan Smith, everyone, the Golden Corral Chevrolet for Tommy Baldwin Racing, 8th in the Daytona 500. Could he be a guy who sneaks up and gets a wild card win and locks himself into the chase? I mean, he's close to that top 30 in points.
Yeah,
and I think he's 30th right now, right? And then Tony Stewart is 9 points behind him.
I think so. Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah. So Regan needs a great finish to stay in that top 30 echelon. We'll be back after this break. We're going to pick our picks out of a hat, and then we got some rock segment that Robbie is talking about. You're watching the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show presented by Hercules Tires.
The Inside Line will return in just a moment.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
Stay up to date with the latest news from the NASCAR Garage weekdays on NASCAR Today, midday.
We can enhance the fans' experience, and I think that's what we really need to zero in on and provide.
Hear from the drivers and teams as they chase the 2016 championship trophy.
Change is good in our sport. It re-energizes people, makes everybody, step up to the plate, so to speak.
NASCAR Today, midday. Weekdays on the Motor Racing Network, your source for NASCAR news.
If you have a question or comment about NASCAR, Motor Racing Network has a direct line for you. It's the Fan Forum Hotline.
I'm a newbie to this sport just this year, and I wanted to know.
I was wondering when they measure the length of a racetrack.
Call in at 844-4-ASK-MRN. That's 844-4-ASK-MRN.
Just wanted to send out a big shout out and thanks for covering the race.
The Fan Forum Hotline, your connection to NASCAR.
Now it's back to Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett on the Inside Line.
Thanks to our buddy Regan Smith for joining us today on the Inside Line. Hopefully we can join the party with him in Daytona when he wins that race.
And maybe he could be my new co-host.
even though I have to go to Kentucky on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It'll be a short party, but we'd get it done. All right,
Yeah.
The Hat has joined us back for this restrictor plate. Oh, sorry, Denny Hamlin. I dropped you. For our picks for restrictor plate racing hat prowess, whatever we want to call it. Anyways, Let's make our picks. We need 5 and a winner.
Oh, 24.
So Chase Elliott is on our hat team. Who else do we got here? I can't look. The 19 of Carl Edwards. Hopefully this works out money-wise for NASCAR.com.
Yeah.
It did last time, actually. I think we were
47, A.J. Allmendinger.
All right.
Yep.
That's a pretty good team so far.
This is riveting television, by the way.
I think that's the 21 if I can see my writing. So Ryan Blaney.
Well, there's no 12 car, so.
There's Ryan Newman with Penske.
Yeah. 95, Michael McDowell.
Okay, there we go. That definitely should work in NASCAR.com. So Michael McDowell, Wow, I actually like this team better than mine. Ryan Blaney, Carl Edwards, who's never won at a restrictor plate track ever, came close in Talladega. Chase Elliott and A.J. Allmendinger. Now a winner, Robbie Mays.
Winner this weekend from the hat. We have number 41, Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch.
Yeah.
Wow, this is actually a very good team. I'm a little nervous about this. Thank you, Rango Fowler, for the hat picks this week.
Good job.
Kurt Busch, our winner. Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney, Carl Edwards, Chase Elliott, and A.J. Allmendinger. That's our team for hat picks, Robbie Mays.
Time for a new segment we like to call Under a Rock or Tyler.
What does that mean?
So we're going to show a pop culture image, video clip, audio clip, whatever. Today it's a photo. You have to tell us who the person is. You can say I'll tell you they're an actor. You can tell us a character they have played or the person's name. Daryl, let's go.
All right. Oh my goodness. I have no. Howie Mandel.
No. He says Howie Mandel.
I have no idea who that is. It's a bald guy, and I don't know. Scott Van Pelt.
No.
He doesn't have glasses on.
You really don't know?
I'm lost.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard. That is Patrick Stewart. Star Trek: The Next Generation.
See, I've never watched a single episode of Star Trek.
Well, I have.
I mean, how sad is that?
You're 0 for 1. All right, winners. Let's go. Who do you got?
My winner this week is Martin Truex Jr., 2 inches away from winning the Daytona 500. Joe Gibbs Racing, as Regan mentioned, he is a Joe Gibbs Racing Alliance. Of course, he's with Furniture Row Racing, but Truex is on my fantasy team. I think he wins the Coke Zero 400.
Okay. We've seen Coke Zero 400s produce first-time winners, and I think we have a first-time winner this weekend.
Oh, my. Here we go.
I'm going Chase Elliott to win this weekend.
All right. Remember when you were complaining to me last week about how good he was at road courses?
Yep.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
Not very good.
Wow. Coming up shortly, Sprint Cup Series qualifying at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Join Joe Moore and Jeff Striegel as they lead the broadcast for that. And then following that, Xfinity Series Subway Firecracker 250 will be coming up in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So hopefully you enjoy that one. Next week, we will be going to Kentucky.
Yep.
But the crapshoot of Daytona International Speedway this weekend. Hopefully our hat picks work out. It's going to be a great time. We'll talk to you next week here on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show. Thanks to Regan Smith and Daryl Smith, our producer. We'll talk to you next week.
No relation.
You've been listening to The Inside Line, presented by Hercules Tires. Stream us every Friday on MotorRacingNetwork.com or on the MRN app. The Inside Line is also available on demand at the MRN.com Media Center or download it through iTunes or Stitcher. The Inside Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network.